This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for this Monday, September 26th. Mark filming on holidays this week. So it is me, Charity Brown, on my anniversary. So happy anniversary to my husband, Wayne. We are celebrating our 13th wedding anniversary today. And clearly not alone, as I saw in birthdays earlier this morning. Quite a few people were married on this day. So happy anniversary to you as well if you're celebrating, and happy birthday to you if it's a birthday. Beautiful weather. This time of year is always gorgeous. One of my favorite times of year, not just because it's my wedding anniversary, but because of the colors. I love the fall colors. It's cooler, more comfortable weather, but the colors really do just take my breath away. So that's actually what we did for our anniversary. This past weekend, we took a drive north of Belleville, up around the Bancroft area, to see some of the colors. Surprisingly, not too many to see. The leaves around this area have started to turn, but as we found, the ones up north, not just yet. A lot of green, but still such a beautiful area. And that was a great way to kick off our weekend and our anniversary celebration. So that this time of year, I'm sure there will be a few more drives, and you yourself may be thinking about getting out and doing that. I highly recommend it. It is well worth it. Also making headlines, and I'm still enjoying this, finding out about Queen Elizabeth. I would never have called myself a royal watcher, but since the Queen has passed, yeah, I think I am, because I can't seem to get enough of the royal family. It is amazing to me, this fascination of this family, and it really is. How they work, how they get along, just watching them, and especially when the Queen passed, because nothing like this. Yes, there'd been jubilees and parties, but nothing with the emotional pull or toll, not even the passing of Prince Philip, I think, affected as many people around the world as the passing of Queen Elizabeth since Diana. So it really, I think, connected the two, and maybe that's what pulled me in, because there was more than once I had a flashback to the passing of Princess Diana, seeing William and Harry walk behind her casket, seeing them again walk behind the Queen's. The headlines dealing with Meghan Markle, so there was the underlying of the scandal, and now with King Charles, as positive as many have been, there's also a little bit of negativity. There's just this fascination. And so when I saw last week that someone I knew had gone to the funeral, it kind of pushed me into overdrive. I had to track her down and talk to her, because as soon as I saw she was there, I thought, of course she would be there, because much like me, she has a connection to the royal family. So I tracked her down. Johanna Allen, she is the owner and operator of Allen Insurance Group. And I had the pleasure of working with Johanna before coming here to Starboard Communications. So I gave her a call and I said, would you talk to me and share your experience? Because it would have been quite an experience. So I decided to give her and her friend Sarah Foresee a call and hear about their experience. All right. Well, let's start from the beginning. How did you two make it over there for the funeral? Where did this all start?
I think Joe would agree the conversation started years ago in her kitchen when she's been getting old, and we said that if she passes away, we should go. I think we had a plane ticket within 3 days of her passing.
Wow. So you two clearly are... Would you consider yourself, quote unquote, royal watchers?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, and Joe, you lived there for a time.
Yeah, I lived in the UK for a couple of years. I went over to travel and ended up working for a little bit over there. And I think it actually, for me, it started when Diana Spencer came in the picture, and my grandma and my aunt and everybody were always avid royal watchers, and Mom got me doing a scrapbook of articles and that sort of thing, and I think it's just gone on from there. So.
And Sarah, are you much the same?
I've just always, I don't really have a defining moment of when I started being a royal watcher, but certainly have always been interested in them, and really the traditions and the longevity of the royal family is, something we don't have that here, that that ceremony and pomp and pageantry. We don't really have that here, and I just find it really fascinating.
Well, and Johanna, you know, because I said it to you, there's just something about it I found, especially with the passing of Queen Elizabeth, I couldn't stop watching it. There was that need to be almost a part of it. So when the headlines started that she wasn't doing well, and then of course we heard the news she passed, who called first? Was it instant that it was like, we have to go?
I don't even know, really. Sarah texted to say that the Queen has died, lower your flags. And
okay, that's step one.
Yeah, lower flags, which we got on. And I don't know, I think it was just a quick exchange. So are we going? And then we're like, well, we have to wait and see where the funeral was. And then when we found out when the funeral was, it was are we going? And Sarah is magic on booking trips and found a decent flight and found a decent place to stay. And we were like, we had a 30-second moment of hesitation, or I did, when I said, are you sure we should do this? And Sarah's like, when are we ever going to get the opportunity for this again? I was like, sold. It's not like we're solving world hunger or, and poverty or anything like that. It was one of those once in a lifetimes, be part of history sort of thing. No. So
what was the because I'm so curious about when you arrived there, what was the feeling?
I think it was very, it was magical. There was a lot of respect, but a lot of celebration as well. This was the passing of an era. It was the second Elizabethan era, and it was over. So it was really magical. Everybody was in good spirits. But also, this coming together of the world. Like we were with the whole world. We met people from Scotland, Ireland, Americans, locals. It was just brilliant.
So you land in London. What's the plan from there on out? How long were you there for? Were you from when she arrived at Westminster until the funeral, or?
No, we flew out Saturday night. So we landed and we're at our hotel by about 3:00 on Sunday.
Okay.
And we flew out Tuesday morning. So when we landed at our hotel on Sunday, 3:00, we packed a bag and we said we wanted to get in the queue to pay our respects to the Queen. Mm-hmm. So we had no idea where the queue was. We just knew we had to go out into the world and figure it out. So we packed a bag full of sweaters and a couple jackets and stuff and headed out. And we met somebody on the tube who actually happened to be Canadian, wasn't she, Sarah?
Yes, she was.
Yeah. She told us where to get off, and we got off, and we looked across the Thames, and there was this line of people moving. So we knew we weren't at the end, so we had to get over to the other side of the Thames, and then we started walking to the end of the line. And we were, because it was later in the afternoon, right, we had until 6:30 a.m. on Monday because they were going to close down that queue. Mm-hmm. And we knew at that point it was about a 12-hour wait, or that's what it was being reported as. So we knew we had to be fast to get to the end of the line because you needed these bracelets.
Yes.
So what we thought was going to be a couple tube stops ended up being a 2-hour walk at a very fast pace.
Oh, my God.
to get to the end of the line. And perhaps we could have jumped on a tube or jumped on a bus or something, but we were afraid we were going to miss the end of the line if we didn't have a visual of it. Mm-hmm. So, and it was really interesting because when we got to the end, they actually didn't have any bracelets left. They said, more are coming, go on ahead and we'll catch you. So we walked on ahead and we got to a certain point, and this lady stopped us wanting to see our bracelets, and we said, they told us to go on ahead. So she wouldn't let us go any further. So there were people backing up. And then the whole bunch of other people came with bracelets on, and we were like, oh, no, now what are we going to do? So it ended up there was a local man, and his name was George, and he was walking with his son, Taryn. And he said to us, I've been watching this for 3 days. Girls, come with me. Now, I think it was because he had a 10-year-old kid, and we had 10-year-old kids that we, trusted this man.
Okay.
Seemed like a friendly sort. So we did, and he actually helped us get to where we needed to be to get some bracelets and that sort of thing. And he was an architect, so we had wonderful conversations as we're traveling through Canary Wharf in London. He's pointing out different architectural things that we would have never noticed, which was really incredible. And there was one point where we had to go to the bathroom, and there were porta potties set up all along, so we told him to go on ahead. And after we got back in the line, but he had moved on ahead, he came back, and he said, I asked the people around me if they would mind if you came up with us, and he invited us up to where he was. Yeah, it was really, really sweet. And there was all these people that were familiar because we were all looking for these wristbands, and everybody kind of cheered at that point, and they all had wristbands, and we just traveled the queue with these wonderful people and got to know them. And there was another gentleman by the name of Harsh. He was an investment banker in London, and he was very interesting to talk to. And, you know, we had a solid 8 hours to visit, so get to know each other better.
So it took about 8 hours to get through the queue?
Yes. 2 hours to get to the end of the line, and then 8 hours to get to the Queen. So
you got to the Queen, you enter. Share with us how that was. What was that experience like?
Sarah, you go ahead with this. You've got great words for this.
It was, you know, you're in this queue and there's all this energy, and then you walk into Westminster Hall and it is dead silent. You could hear an ant crawl across the floor, and it's just, and it's heavy, you know, the air feels really heavy in there. And so it's a hard thing. And I think that's the thing. You can watch the funeral and you can watch this all unfold. And, you know, I think this is something Joe and I will always share, is how it felt, right? That feeling of the air and the energy and all of that stuff that was happening. So, yeah, when you walked in there, it was just this blanket of silence, and the air was heavy, and everybody was doing what they needed to do to say their respects. And, you know, it was very respectful and very civilized. They line you up in 4 rows, and then as you've heard, the queue never stops moving, even right to the very end. you keep going a little bit slower, and you have like 1 second to turn and face the coffin and, you know, bow or curtsy or whatever your preference is there. But the guards they're incredible. If you watch them at all, just their ability to stand that still and keep guard. And
when we came out of Westminster Hall, everything's cordoned off. There's no buses, there's no tubes, there's no cabs anywhere. So we had to make a decision at that point. We had to decide if we were going to go out and hang out on the street or if we were going to get a couple of hours sleep and then come back. Mm-hmm. So we had kind of resigned ourselves. We were so pleased to get through the queue to see the Queen that we thought, you know what, at the very least, if we just watch it on the big screens in Hyde Park, we'll be happy because we're there. So we ended up having to walk to Trafalgar Square. We finally got a cab, and we got back to our hotel. So it was about 2 o'clock in the morning by the time we got back to our hotel. We caught about 3 to 4 hours sleep, got up, showered, and headed back down. And we headed back down towards Hyde Park. And when we came off the tube, we walked up towards Hyde Park, and we looked down near the Albert Memorial, and there were these police congregated there. So I turned to one of the security there were security people everywhere all the time. So I turned to one of them and I said, "What are they congregating for?" And they said, "Well, that is where the Queen leaves by herself and goes off to Westminster. That's where her hearse will go." And they said the hearse will travel right down here. So we knew at that point that she was moving from the what's it called? The cortege, is it? Or the procession to the hearse at Wellington Arch. So we started to walk up that way, but it was so thick with crowds, and we knew she was coming down the road we were on, and there were gates set up and everything. We set up almost in front of the cavalry, and this is where many of the horses are kept, and we actually could see over the cavalry walls where the horses were all ready to go, and they had the soldiers had their had attire on, and at one point they came out to go towards the funeral, which was pretty incredible to watch them getting ready to go.
Yeah.
And we had a police officer in front of us, and he would kind of coach us on what was happening around us and that sort of thing. So it was really interesting to talk to him. But at one point he said he caught our attention, and then, of course, he goes straight to attention, and he's looking off straight ahead because of the way they have to conduct themselves. And along came these horses, and behind them were the 3 trailers of the guns where they did the 96 gun salute. So they came flying by us. So it was really neat to see those sorts of things and put it all together. We ended up watching most of the funeral on our phones, and, sharing it with the police officer as well. Sarah was really good about that because he couldn't see anything. He didn't know what was going on, but he was part of this. So there's a lot of people crowding around us, and although Sarah and I had front row seats, the crowd pushed up against us, and there was a girl, she was about 12, and she ended up down by my knees, peeking through that way.
Oh my gosh!
So it was really cool that way. But so we knew when she transferred to her hearse at Marble Arch, and within a few minutes, it's just like all of a sudden the police just know something is happening, and you know something's happening because you'll see these motorcycles go by, and then her hearse drove down, and Princess Anne was in the car behind her. And then there was 2 security people behind her. And then out of the cavalry comes another hearse. It's a second hearse, all glass. And it was in case her hearse broke down, there was another one.
Oh, see, yeah. It's those little things.
I know
that you do miss watching it on TV, and I can't imagine being there in person. How you're going to carry that now with you, Joe, and for Sarah too. And I guess that would be my next question. How are your feelings now that we have a king?
You know what? Best of luck to him. It is an awful position to be in. Everybody is watching you. And I mean, he has trained for this role for 73 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the moment he is born. And the only way you get this role is if you lose your parent. I mean, it's got to be awful to have to deal with this. I understand that's their life and it's what they choose, and they have a lot of privileges because of it. But it's a heavy role. It's a lot of responsibility, and I mean, I wish them all the best. I really, really do. Well, but their lives have changed.
Well, and I made that observation when we were talking about it on the air, even because you'd see Harry and William walking behind, and it, of course, brought back when their mother had passed. But I'm watching it and I'm thinking, at the end of the day, this is still a family. They're still grieving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
you're glad you went then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, would it have been lovely to spend longer in London? For sure. But I was at a conference the Friday before, so we only could leave on Saturday. And then Sarah, she had to head out with her role. She had to be in Saskatchewan on Thursday. So
it really was
a buffer, and we went for it. I feel truly blessed that I was able to experience it. It's a once in a lifetime thing, and like I said, it's not ending poverty. It's not ending world hunger. I mean, I'm very lucky to be able to go on, but it was a great experience.
Truly a once in a lifetime experience, no question. So very interesting to see firsthand, or to hear firsthand, of someone being there in person and their thoughts and experiences with the passing of Queen Elizabeth. So thank you both to Johanna and Sarah for joining me this morning and sharing and talking about it. The Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast, available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast daily. About midday, you can have a listen, subscribe, and you'll automatically get the notification. It is up and ready to go. Have a listen. Thanks so much for being a part of it, and enjoy your Monday.